Shalom Bahashim Yahweh Kodesh Yisra'El. Mr. Tribal Minister Prince Charlene Dean, Ben Ami Motazoyam Ben Yisra'El Senior, the mighty Hebrew. I give all praise and honor to Yahweh, the supreme, intelligent, powerful one of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, those striving for righteousness' sake, all over the planet Earth. I say into the family, Shalom Aleichem. It's definitely an honor and a privilege to be here, Yisra'El. Yeah, we had a little blackout, so the lights will be back on in a second. We had a blackout out here, you know what I'm saying? So let me invite people, because I see y'all been waiting, huh? I know y'all been waiting. Yeah, I got a treat for y'all. It's going to be 2 parts because it's a lot of information. But right now, I'm just waiting for the lights to come back on. That's the thing about Tanzania. Sometimes the lights act a little funny. So let me go ahead and invite some people right now. So I'm doing that right now as we speak. Oh, it's piling up already. I know y'all been waiting for this. So let me go ahead. It's definitely going to be... there we go. Look at that. They came back on. Yo, baby. Yeah. They came back on. Okay. The lights came back on. Yeah. So, giving all praise and honor to Yahweh, the supreme, intelligent, powerful one of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, those striving for righteousness' sake all over the planet Earth. I say into the family, Shalom Aleichem. Y'all seen that? You see how the Most High work? I was like, oh man, I know the brothers and sisters, they waiting on me. And then all of a sudden the lights went out. Sometimes they do that once in a while. They'll go off on. It's throughout the whole entire country of Tanzania. This is why it's good to have a generator. So we're in the process now of getting that. We doing everything by the muscle. So we will, at the end of the presentation, announce Cash App. Anybody want to donate to the cause, they can. I will spell out our Cash App because we doing real big things over here in Tanzania. Also helping other families to repatriate back over to the land of the promise is outlined in Bereshit, chapter 15:18. So it's definitely a wonderful thing to be in the land of the promise in East Africa. I will be touring Kenya, Uganda, Madagascar. I already came back from Zanzibar. So we will be doing some major powerful things. Give a shout out to my elder, Mazak Queen Sarabah. He sent a $100 donation, for the cause, the struggle, what we're doing over here. Also give a shout out to DJ Los. He sent a $200 donation last week. There's a couple people, there's some things, as time develop, as we continue to grow over here, naturally people will participate more in that. Y'all see what we're doing. This is not a congregation, but this is an international movement by the way of Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism. So again, I will say this now, and then I'll repeat it at the end of the presentation. Anybody want to give any type of contributions to us, they can use the Cash App by the way of the $ Princess. The P is capital. The rest of Princess is lowercase. Next to it, connected is Etana. That is capital E, lowercase I-T-A-N-A. Princess Etana. Anybody that wish to donate, they can donate again, $ Princess, the P is capital. Etana, the E is capital. I-N-A. Excuse me. Sorry. Capital E-I-T-A-N-A. It's an honor. Y'all see the work that we're doing. Y'all see that we out here repatriating other brothers and sisters We even use the Royal Palace to bring in people. We also help local families from Kenya to come over here because right now there's things going on over there. So sometimes they use us to come over and then they'll stay for like a week or two and then go back or go on with their destination. So every little thing is a hub. It could be a 50 cent, $1, $1,000, whatever y'all want to send. Y'all can send. Y'all know I don't even ask for donations, but everything we doing is like, the muscle. Right now we're working on a generator because there is, Tanzania is known for having the blackouts. They blackouts can last from when it start up to 24 hours. The location that I'm at in Moshi, Tanzania, they usually put it right back on the same day. Like the blackout that just happened, the blackout was like no more than probably like 30 minutes. There was one yesterday. That was like 3 times, but that happens sometimes. You know what I'm saying? The energy source, however they got the electricity out here in Tanzania, if it's too much power that's being used, sometimes it'll shut down. Okay, I see y'all coming. So I'm going to just start the presentation again. Anybody wish to donate to the cause, what we doing here, by the way, Hebrew Israelite Sovereign Nationalism, with the Mighty Hebrew, myself, the family here, and the Hebrew Israelite Sovereign Nationals here in Tanzania, you can with $ Princess, capital P, that's capitalized the P, Etana, the E is capital EITANA. We'll be most grateful. So let's begin the presentation, shall we? I think I invited enough people that this word can be spread. Hallelujah. So, as y'all all know, F.O.P.E. just had a discussion with Vocab Malone. And within that discussion, one of the questions was being asked, what was the physical appearance of Israel? How did the original Israelites look? And Vocab Malone was, he was doing the Malone shuffle, and he was like trying to bob and weave his way from out of the question. He was basically like, well, they weren't like Charleston Heston. They don't look like the Ashkenazi. But when the question came about were they Negro looking, his answer was no. So what I want to do is establish a foundation to prove that the original children of Israel were dark-skinned people with woolly and wavy hair. So how do we start that? First, I want to read a couple of quotations from some authors that I find very interesting, and I want to state a quotation in the scripture. The first, naturally, we're going to quote from the scripture in the Tanakh. We're going to read in the book Qanath or Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 12, which reads on this wise. And further, by these, Bene, be admonished of making many books, there is no end, and much study is the weariness of the flesh. Now, one might say, is that saying you can't read books? No, that's not saying that. What it's saying is when you read, and if the reading material that you're, embracing takes you off course from Torah Constitution and the testimony of the prophets, which is the Tanakh, the rest of the Tanakh, meaning the prophets and the set apart writings, then from there you have a problem. This is why we are told to be wary about what we read. Because sometimes reading certain things, if you don't have a foundation, it can lure you into something that you really don't want to involve yourself in. So now, shalom, shalom, Brother Kachma. So let's read a quotation from Frederick W. Turner III. He says, "There's no history waiting for us like some giant and architecturally perfect edifice that we will at long last discover in the tangled growth of an intellectual forest." Listen carefully, y'all, because this is very important. Watch. History does not exist for us until and unless we dig it up, interpret it, and put it together. See, the problem with all these debates that you have, and I mean, shout out to all the debaters. Y'all know I was an original debater, the mighty Hebrew. Y'all know how I do. Give a shout out to all those. Give a shout out to the Source. Give a shout out to Lion's Den. Give a shout out to, what's the other one? Solar Vision, Sinetta, all of them. Sinetta Studios, anybody, Torah Nights, all of them, that, debate issues. But sometimes it can be a problem when you don't have your own academia scholarship. The main scholarship body that I'm going to be coming out of is the School of the Prophets Institute in Dimona, Israel, Northeastern Africa. Presiding, the one that's the dean right now is Dr. Sar Kazriel Ben Yahuda. Also, me being the dean here at the Mighty Hebrew University, along with Prince Asiel International Academy, I will be coming out of the records that I put together through footwork research. See, this is the problem with our people. We're trying to argue things that have been interpreted by your Gentiles. Remember the book of Daniel, it says that the Euro Gentile will have a time and a half a time to rule. So we're talking about the power to define. So if you're talking about the power to define, is those that are in control concealing their intentions and to keep us in the dark. So whoever is the conqueror, they're the ones with the controlling pen. That's just the bottom line. If you're talking about today's academia and archaeology, paleontology, anthropology, whatever, who is the main source that control all these things? Regardless of what we try to say, the same ones that enslaved us are the ones that control these things. A lot of these people like Garfield, Dagger Squad, they need to stop lying, saying that these things are universally based in principle when they're not. It is a bias within the academia world to continue to keep the so-called white power structure on top. So let's keep going. I want to quote from the School of the Prophets Institute, the late Chancellor, Prince Dr. Shaliach Ben Yahuda, the founder of the School of the Prophets in Dimona, Israel, Northeastern Africa. He says, history must backtrack in giant steps to come to a spiritual reconciliation and acknowledgement of truth, which is salvation. So we have to redefine our own history. We can no longer let Gentiles or Europeans define our history for us. We have to define it for ourselves. That's just the bottom line. Because anybody that's defining your history, they're the ones that are the controlling element. Like if you come to Africa, you have national history, which came by the way of the colonizers. And then you have those that have the oral tradition passed on through the elders to the youth that become elders, etc., which is aligning with Deuteronomy or Debartium, chapter 32, verses 6 to 8. We're told to seek wisdom from the elders and our fathers that came before us. So if that be the case, why do we keep using academia as a premise or a standard to deal with our historical reality? Now, we can use it if we're talking about comparative study. We can do that. But when you talk about it in the sense of trying to use it in the sense of defining our history, that's a problem. Let's go to Ben Ami. He says, after all the philosophizing has been done, we must conclude. There we go again, y'all. I told you, blackout. So I got my candle. It'll be back on. It does that. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So let me read that again from the top. I know y'all with me. Hallelujah. Giving all praise and honor to Yahweh, the supreme, intelligent, powerful one of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, those striving for righteousness. I say unto the family, Shalom Aleichem. After the philosophy has been done, we must conclude that truth is merely the right knowledge of reality. The major problem with humanity at this time is not so much having access to truth, but accepting truth and doing truth. So that's the major problem within our communities, man. You know, nobody can dictate Hebrew Israelite culture but Hebrew Israelites. That's just the bottom line. The only ones that can dictate our culture is Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationals. This is why I developed Hebrew cosmogenesis. Who are the elders, though? Oh, we're getting to all that. We're getting to all that. We got elders such as Prince Asiel being Yisra'El. You got elders such as Shah Rabbah being Yisra'El. You got elders such as Prince Kamul being Yisra'El. Chief Prince of Paul. We have elders in our midst. See, there's two sets of Hebrews in the midst. You have the Hebrews that's like my age. Yeah, no, everybody I said all Torah only. So you ain't even got to worry about that, Lions Den. The elders that taught me were all Torah 7. You see what I'm saying? The difference is the generation today, most of them learned on social media. Most of them learned on social media. Whereas the elders, like where I'm coming from, like I have basically almost 5 more years. Well, a little over 5 more years before I be an elder. You know, in the Torah, you have to be 50 and older to be an elder. Anything below that is not an elder. And the word is Zaquin, and it really defines ancient one. We translate it as elder, but it means ancient one. But to get into what I'm saying, the era that I came out of, because I got almost 31 years in this culture, there was no social media. There was no internet. So we had to actually sit under the feet of real elders. And we would go to different communities such as Shemrei HaTorah, Brit HaTorah, Bnei Adat, Kifraim. I'm just giving, we back. Yeah, I'm saying Kifraim, Beit Siddiq, you know, et cetera, you know, Torah. There were many, many different Torah-centered communities. One of the most famous Torah-centered communities right out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, they used to be on 60th and Vine. You have Beit Hetzabah. Then you have one on Broad and Lombard in South Philly known as the Tabernacle, ran to this day by a man by the name of Elder Moses Farrar. Y'all know he the one that wrote the famous book, A Non-Christian Response to Christianity, The Deceiving of the Black Race. This man is almost 90 years old and still writes books, and he does lectures. As a matter of fact, speaking historically, the Tabernacle was developed in 1901. It is actually the oldest standing Hebrew Israelite school on the planet. It's actually in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? So, well, y'all are blessed because y'all got the mighty Hebrew. You see? You feel what I'm saying? So as long as I'm breathing, I'm going to give y'all this information. You see what I'm saying? So y'all do have this information through me. So let's continue on. Because what I want to do is, before I go into the scripture to prove that the children of Israel were melanated people, I have to set a foundation. See, these guys like Vocab Malone, and when they talk about precept upon precept, line upon line, here, little there, little there, they think in a lot of the one West Messianic camps, they believe that they can jump from verse to verse and put verses together. That's not what that means. Precept upon precept was those which you would call the judges or the Zakwanim, the elders in the community. When they had to litigate certain things, they would use the precepts of the Torah. That's what that meant. That had nothing to do with just jumping to this verse, that verse, this verse, because you got to remember when that statement was outlined, there wasn't nothing canonized at that time. So it had to be expression by the way of culture. It had to be expressed by culture. So let's go into it, right? I want to read from out of, let's see. I want to read a quotation from the late Prince Dr. Shaliach ben Yahuda, right? Who's a historian with the African Hebrew Israelite community of Jerusalem. He says this, y'all need to hear this. The world has unwittingly accepted lies and distortions concerning the history of the so-called Middle East and Near East region, he says. He comes back to say, our studies and experience have shown that the present day inhabitants of this region are not the original people of the land. Stop. So now when you start talking about things like J1, J2 haplogroups, Vocab Malone is a dummy. He tried to use the J1 haplogroup to prove jewelry with connections of the Lamba and those so-called Sephardim Jews that live in the so-called fake Jewish state of Israel, right? Well, what people don't know is that the J1 haplogroup is a forgery, was a forgery DNA that was created in 1997 by a man by the name of Dr. Rabbi Yaakov Kleiman. What he did was took modern day so-called Jews and took their DNA and tried to make that the catalyst of searching for Jewish DNA. Are you kidding me? He's also the creator and developer of what is called the CMH, of the Cohen model or haplo model. The CMH is what you will call the Cohen model haplogroups or haplotypes. And this is how they claim they can prove the Kohanim. It's all bull crap because they didn't take ancient DNA bones. Like you have 1,500 skulls in Lachish, Israel, that they could have abstracted the DNA. Again, his name is Dr. Rabbi Yaakov Kleiman. He is the one that developed what is known as the J1 haplogroup. There it is again. Don't worry about it. That should be the last time. And when it comes, because they usually do it like twice or three times and then that's it. So it'll come back. I continue on. But he's the one that created that. He's the one that developed that. So anytime people talk about DNA and there's no match, my question is, did they go and abstract DNA from any ancient Israelite bones? No. But historically, archaeologically, paleontologically, they did the research of the bones that they found in Lachish, Israel. And guess what they said? This is a scientific fact. I'm not lying. Go look it up. Go look up the 1,500 skull remains that they found in Lachish, Israel. And guess what they said them Israelites were? Negro. We're about to get into that. We're going to get into that with that. So watch this. He comes back to say, our studies, he says, our studies and experience have shown that the present day inhabitants of this region are not the original people of the land. The majority of those defined by modern historians as Arabs or Arabs are the descendants of European crusaders. One need only research and visit the area's back regions to discover that the world has hidden the remnants of Northeast Africa's original inhabitants. He says, so basically what Dr. Prince Shaliach is saying is you have to be on the ground to know who's who. Like, for instance, when you look on TV about the state of Israel, you see white people. But if you went to Israel and you would go to places like Jerusalem, Prison Gate, if you go to the southern Negev, you go into different areas, you'll find the Afro-Palestinians, You will see Israelites there, darker than me and you. You will see Falashas over there. You will see all these real Canaanites. That's why I laugh at dumb hybrids, ancient watchmen that like to take people pictures. Like if y'all ever look at these clowns, like they just recently took one of my pictures from the delegation, put it up there, said something about Hamites, and then went in there and just start talking a bunch of talk from off of Wikipedia. They don't have no foot knowledge, no archaeology. Like these guys are archaeologists that actually did, real historians that did the footwork research to prove their stance. And that's the difference from our argument versus them. We're actually in the land. You see what I'm saying? And we did our own footwork and we can prove exactly what we're saying. Let's continue on. Watch this. I want y'all to hear one more quotation before I start. Okay, so I'm here. So now, let's get to the foundation of things. So let's start at Bereshit, chapter 2, verse 8, because what I want to do is set a foundation. So even though y'all know I teach that all people on the planet aren't descendants of Noah, another story, another topic. But since we're Israel, we're descendants of Noah. So we're going to talk about our origins, our source and substance. So in Bereshit chapter 2, verse 8, it says, "And Yahweh Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put Ha'adam, and whom Ha'adam had, and whom he had formed." Now, one of the first tasks in Qanath evidence is to take the Qanath and use the historical data and deal with it with a comparative study. So this is what we're going to do. So I wrote some notes down, right? So I want to read from out of this book called The 100 Amazing Facts on the African Presence in the Bible on page 10. I want to read something. It says, "Our first task is to use biblical evidence, supportive academic references, and common sense logic and reason to show that the ancestral home of the original man, or humanity's common ancestor, was in what we know today as Africa." Now, one might say, well, you can't say Africa in the sense of how it is today because then the earth was one. Okay, we understand all that. But we're talking about Israel's origins. Remember, Ha'adam, he was not created in the garden. He was placed in the garden. I'm going to prove that the Garden of Eden is, in fact, from Eastern Africa to Northeastern Africa. Now, when we start talking about the creator of humanity and going into the Tamar Nadu or the Lemurian root epic and Madagascar and all that, that's a whole nother different subject matter and topic. But we're talking about where Ha'adam was placed in the garden, correct? Okay, he wasn't created in the garden, but it says he was placed in the garden. So let's find out where this garden is at, okay? Was Africa in the land called Eden in the Bible. There is present controversy, fear, anger arising from the recent storm of Afrocentric and Hebrew Israelite revelations that state that the origin of life were in what is considered today Africa. This anger has been surpassed only by the logical reality that accompanies it. Let's stop. If you notice with ancient watchmen, they whole objective, if they see the word Adam, like where they'll say, King David, he was ready. But what they fail to understand, the word is Edom, which is only talking about his vibrant character or his manly character. It's not talking about a complexion. You know what I mean? And how they're trying to convey it to the people. But people that lack Hebrew understanding or the niqwadah or the grammatical structure of Hebrew, and they only use Strong's concordances, how you going to be an Israelite but you're using the Strong's concordance? That makes no sense. You're an Israelite, you say, but all your points of reference of Hebrew is coming from a Strong's concordance. See, the reason why James White was able to so-called take advantage of Rakal before I bodied him, right? Okay. He was able to attack GOCC because most of their points of reference when they deal with the Hebrew is from a Strong's concordance. Any true Hebrew linguist know the countless, as a matter of fact, the Strong's concordance have 16,854 mistakes. Over 16,000 mistakes. Like, here's a prime example of what I mean by mistake. If you go into Isaiah chapter 7:14, where it says the word virgin, and your King James version, right? We know in Hebrew the word for virgin is bathulah. We know that. Any real Hebrew speaker knows that. But when you go into the Hebrew of that verse, it doesn't have that word there. As the word alma, which only means a young woman, right? So if you go to any real Hebrew speaker, they know that there's a difference. But if you go to the Strong's Concordance, Strong's have the word alma there, but in his definition, he'll put the word virgin there. So in reality, when Strong's translates, he translates based on how the King James Version was translated, not how the Hebrew itself is. That's where the errors is coming in at. Let's continue on. That same book says, if the origin of life were in the place called Africa today, then the original occupant would have to be African Edenic. So for the sake of argument, I'm not going to use the word African from this day forward. I'm going to use the word Edenic. For the sake of argument, I'm going to keep it to not base, because we know that that word Africa goes back to the Hebrew word Africa. We're going to get into that in a second, okay? Because it's not a Latin word. The word Africa is not a Latin word. It doesn't go back to Publius Cornelius Scipio Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus or Leo Africanus. That's a lie. That word goes back to the Hebrew Aramaic word afar. When you go into Genesis chapter 2:7, we're going to get into that. The Hebrew word is afar, which is soil dust. Then if you go into Genesis chapter 25, you'll see Midian had the same name afar. If you go into the book of Josephus, we clearly see that Josephus clearly said that the Afarites conquered your Punites south of Carthage with the Afarites, which Hannibal was a part of. We're getting all that later on as we continue. So let's go into Ben Ami's book on page 11, God, the Black Man and Truth. He says, let us look to biblical history, right? To piece the puzzle together. If you acknowledge the archaeological findings that the earliest man originated in northeastern Africa, then what is written in the Bible as it pertains to the creation of man and the Garden of Eden is confirmed. So if archaeology is saying that life started in Africa, from this day forward, Eden. If archaeologists are saying it started in Eden, which they call Africa, okay? If paleontology are finding the oldest fossils or humanoid fossils that we know in Africa, such as Homo sapiens sapien, we know that the oldest fossils go back to Ramapithecus, which is 14.2 million BCE, that they found in the Indian subcontinent. Another story, another continent. Another story, another topic. We talking about modern man they found in Africa. And if I can align the biblical facts with the secular, then that means, and now look, and if we trail down this genos or this genealogy, it would be safe to say that the children of Israel were in fact Edenic or African. That's get it. So now, Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 13 says, thou hast been in Eden, the garden of Yahweh. Every precious stone was in covering. The topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, the jasper, sapphire, emerald, the gold, the corpulin, and the workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day thou was created. So let's stop. We need to stop playing games. We know for a fact all the major resources on the planet that are being used today come from Africa. That's a fact. The world objectives is being fed off of Africa. All the most precious resources, all the most precious minerals come from Africa. That's a fact, man. No more playing games with the pseudo-hypothesis, the Israelites in South America, all these games, man. We dealing with facts, man. Facts, the truth. Now let's go into the Edenic or African Genesis, shall we? Let's read The Origin of Modern Humans, U.S. News and World Report, September 16th, 1991, page 54 and page 60. The question is who we were. So what I'm doing is I'm going to align the secular with the Qanath evidence to prove that humans, even in the scripture, they're saying come from Africa. And in that turn, we're going to trace the lineage. And don't try to say, well, the word Liban means white. Who you think you talking to? Liban, the Aramean, falsely called Assyrian, not Assyrian, but Syrian. They try to say white. Well, I thought the original Bereshit and all that was written in Sinaitic Hebrew, hieroglyph. Ain't that what Moses wrote it in? Moshe, Masha, Musa, whatever name you want to pronounce. That being the case, I thought the Lamid was symbolic to a staff, right? I thought the Ba or the Bain was a house to go in, and then the Nun or the Na was the seed. So Laban really means one who protects the continuation of the family within the house or within the family. It don't mean white. Get out of here, man. Stop playing these games. You talking, that's Strong's. You getting the term ancient watchman white from Strong's, not from actual Hebrew. Get out of here, man. You go talk to somebody because I'm coming at y'all neck for the simple fact y'all keep trying to attack Israel, but y'all learned from us. Y'all learned really from the One West camps. That's who y'all learned it from. Watch this. Recently revised dates, right, of modern human fossils seem to suggest an African origin. If the Outer Africa model proves even partially correct, however, it will fundamentally change our view of who we are. It suggests that in the end, all humans are in essence Africans, meaning that their original source and substance or origin go back to the original man, woman, and child. As the late Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, we the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, Father, civilization, God of the universe. They know who we are. Matter of fact, we the Elohim of the multiverse, because there's many universes. Let's keep going. Let's go into the search for Adam and Eve. Newsweek, January the 11th, 1988. Funny, Newsweek will have something called the search of Adam and Eve. Kind of interesting. Scientists are calling her Eve, which we know is totally Greco-Latin. It's really Kawa, okay? But reluctantly, the name invokes two many wrong images. The weak-willed figure that has been misinterpreted, okay, that they put in the Genesis, the milk skin, beauty, and Renaissance art. Remember, the Renaissance was the rebirth. Y'all watched the Beaux-Arts. You had the Beaux-Arts. You had Alexander, not Alexander, what's his name? Michelangelo. Leonardo da Vinci, all these people that was drawing all these images during the time of the Renaissance. Because remember, from the 5th century ACE to the 15th century ACE, we ruled by the way of known as the so-called Moorish Empire, which were nothing but Israelites that either converted to Islam or still upheld the Hebraic culture. We ruled. That's why in 1492, right? You see the destruction of the last stronghold of the so-called Moorish Empire in Grenada, right? And then you see in 1492 the collapse of Qanath or Ghana, which was held by the Hebrew Zad dynasty. Let's get it. That received all the power source coming from out of the Hebraic empire known as Lam. Let's get it. Y'all got the right Hebrew here, right? Excuse me, Hebrew Israelite sovereign national. Because I'm not a Hebrew Israelite. I'm a Hebrew Israelite sovereign national. Two different mind states. Let's continue on. So you see the collapse of the Hebrew kingdoms in Europe, along in West Africa and Central Africa, mainly in 1492. And then you add, which was Caesar Borgia, which was the second son of Alexander, Pope Alexander VI of Rome. Michelangelo started to draw biblical, so-called biblical characters in their image and likeness, right? Watch this. And then it says, to the point, the scientist Eve, subject of one of the most provocative anthropological territories in a decade, was more likely a dark-haired, black-skinned woman. Stop. You see what I'm doing, right? Vocab alone, you a sucker, man. The question was asked to you, who are the Israelites today? You know what this fool said? This fool gonna say, an Israelite is somebody that holds the covenant of the Old Testament and they were circumcised. Well, no. An Israelite is one who can trace their lineage by the seed of the father going back to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Period. It's not by your blood, it's by the seed of your father. Period. Stop lying. It ain't about no religious conversion. I'm going to get into that because the nations that will cling to us, they're not going to be converting. They're going to become naturalized. You can't convert to be Chinese. You can't convert to be Japanese. Right now, if I go to China, I can't cling to the Chinese people and say, oh, I converted to be Chinese. That being the case, how you going to convert to be an Israelite? Come on, man. Get the hell out of here. The Torah is the Constitution. Israel is the body politic. So through naturalization, they're going to have to take oaths and things like that to get involved if we so desire them to be a part of what we dealing with. Why you think in the Torah, there's certain things that the Goyim can't do? There's a difference from being a Hebrew Israelite sovereign national versus Hebrew Israelite citizen of the state. Come on, man. It's two different things, man. We got to get out of this religious mind state that people can convert to our ways. That's why you got all these different people letting Euro Gentiles in. This ain't no shock to GOCC, but y'all letting the Goyim up in y'all communities, man. They cannot convert to be involved. We have to have a sovereign nationalistic government in our own land, and they have to apply for citizenship. Just like you can't be you can't be a so-called American citizen until you get naturalized. Ain't that in Article 14? It's not Article 14, Amendment 14 in the U.S. Constitution. All those either born or naturalized. It's kind of funny. Let's keep going on. Let's go into Albert Churchwood's book, The Evolution of Primitive Man, pages 11 and 12. This is how you do comparative study. We're not going to put up the pictures. We will put the pictures up shortly. But we're not going to put up the pictures and all this, that, the third. You know, say, see. No, when I put pictures up, I'm going to give you the sources that you can go and look this stuff up. So what I'm doing is setting the foundation first, the scientific evidence. And then every time I show the scientific evidence, I'm going to quote a verse that lines with the scientific evidence. This is real basic. This is real easy. It says, from studies. And you can't say Albert Church. He's a credible source because your whole Afrocentric world uses Albert Churchwood. They use the book Signs and Symbols of Premortal Man. That's get it. From studies I have made during many years, I am fully convinced that the ideas of many scientists as to the origin of the human race as regards to dates and places have erroneously, and that the human race did not originate in Asia or any other part of the world, but in Africa. I mean, I'm only giving y'all the scientific data. Let's continue on. Let's go to Dr. John Henry Clark. Y'all love him. In Sheikh Anta Diop's book, The Cultural Unity of Black Africa, page 3. See, I'm giving it all to y'all. If I got an Afrocentric audience, I'm going to give you Sheikh Anta Diop. I'm going to give you Dr. John Henry Clark. I'm going to give you Jacob Correttas. I'm going to give you Obenga. I'm going to give you Chancellor Williams. I'm going to give you Dr. Ben. If I got my Israelite audience, I'm going to give you your Dr. Shaliach. I'm going to give you your Sar Dr. Ahmadiels. I'm going to give you myself. I'm going to give you Hella Hughley. I'm going to give you Rudolph Farr Windsor. I'm going to give you Ben Ami. I'm going to give you Prince El Ram. I'm going to give you Prince Asiel Ben Israel. I'm going to give you that. If you ain't into none of that and you just want the scientific data, I'm giving you the scientific data. Let's go. Let's continue on. Watch this. John Henry Clark in Sheikh Anta Diop's book, The Cultural Unity of Black Africa, page 3. It is generally conceded in most scholarly circles that that mankind originated in Africa. This makes the African man the father and the African woman the mother of humanity, mankind. Let's go into genetics. I got you, Ancient Watchman. I got you, you little snake vocab Malone. I got you. Let's go into genetics. Let's go into DNA points to African origins. The Washington Post, March 11th, 1996. I got you. See, I'm using primary sources, baby. I ain't using hypothesis and I believe and all this. And he was Ruddy and all these freaking games. Ruddy ain't nothing but a dark brown skinned man with a reddish overtone sheen. If you look at the so-called African American skin color, it's technically not brown, but it's brown with reddish overtone. So stop playing games which you consider ruddy. You playing these games, man. Just say, y'all know that we know that technically we're not black, but because the states or the Western world looks at things as black and white, whether they're looking at skin color or they're looking at social statuses. Okay, you know what the hell we talking about. And he kept circumnavigating what F.O.P.E was saying. That's why Shah Sham was getting upset about the situation, because he seen what Vocab Malone was doing. Well, I'm using your own people, Vocab Malone. Let's see. A small group of humans left Africa. Kind of interesting. Even when you look at the so-called Garden of Eden story, I see that Adam or Adam Wakawa, falsely called Eve, weren't they banished from the garden? Sound like out of Africa if you want to look at it in that sense, right? But let's keep going though. A small group of humans left Africa, the cradle of their evolution. Evolution, evolvement. We say emanation, okay? And we say generation or degeneration, okay? Let's continue on. And went forth to populate Asia, Europe, and the Americas. So all this, so the first peoples from the Americas, man, they were dark melanated people. The so-called Hispanics are not the original inhabitants of the Americas, man. They're hybrids, man. Like this is games, man, that they playing. Let's continue on. Watch this. About 100,000 years ago, according to scientists who study genetic patterns in worldwide groups. Now, one might say, what does that mean? Well, you know your genetics, when you're in certain environments for a period of time, your genetics creates markers within your genetic code. Let's say if you in Tanzania, one of the things that grow in Tanzania heavily is bananas and papayas and watermelons, right? So let's say if your clan is constantly eating that for centuries and centuries, it creates a genetic marker. And then y'all later on travel somewhere else. They can trace because of the social environment, the things that you ate, consumed over the years, it can become a genetic marker, and they're able to get not an absolute, but they can get like a conclusion of the subject matter. And they're able to trace this down from generation to generation. These guys need to stop playing games. Let's get it. Watch. A small group of humans left Africa, the cradle of their evolution, and went forth to populate Asia, Europe, and the Americas about 100,000 years ago, according to scientists who studied genetic patterns in worldwide groups. This pattern of variation suggests that all non-Africans derived from a single common ancestral population which migrated out of northeastern Africa. That's in genetics. DNA points. Listen, genetics, DNA points. The hell with your games. The hell with your games. DNA points to African origins. The Washington Post, March 11th, 1996. I'm going to read that again. Go type it up right now. Anybody. Genetics. DNA points to African origins. The Washington Post, March the 11th, 1996. What are you talking about? Let's go to African Heritage Study Bible, page 5. Notes in Genesis chapter 2, verse 8 to 14. Didn't I just read Genesis chapter 2, verse 8? Well, let's see what the footnote of that African Heritage Study Bible says. Even today's contemporary scholars verify that the first people on the earth were of African descent. Scientific evidence has recently revealed that the earliest findings indicate that Kawa, now called Eve, lived in sub-Saharan Africa. The great anthropologist and paleontologist Louis S.B. Linky made important discoveries of the earliest and oldest fossil remains of men in Eastern Africa. Therefore, it is logically reasonable to conclude that the original man, Adam, which is inclusive of woman, who was created in the image and likeness of Elohim, was African Edenic. Did I not just show the scientific data verifying Genesis 2:8, which reads on this wise, and Yahweh Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put Ha-Adam, whom he had formed. Let's continue on. So let's look into Evolution's Missing Links, I entitle it as. Let's get it, y'all. Let's read from Donald Johnson and Marilyn E.D. Lucy, The Beginning of Humankind, page 375. This is how you destroy these cats. Again, if anybody want to donate to our cause, we out here in Tanzania. Y'all know what we doing, spreading Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism. You can by Cash App, $, princess. The P is capital. The E is capital next to the name princess. I-T-A-N-A. Etana. Let's get it. Watch. Science has not known and does not know today just how or when the all-important transition from ape to humanoid took place. Stop. So we not on none of that. All right. But we do know that there were ape-like species that existed that weren't a part of our human family. And we mixed with certain species that created what you know as your Ramapithecus, 14.2 million BCE, your Australopithecus, 3.2 million BCE, your Homo erectus, 2.1 million BCE, your Neanderthalians, which is 850,000 BCE, right? Why you think they got what is known as RH monkey DNA gene? Why you think you got ghost DNA gene? Because there are certain species that existed then that don't exist today that we were mixing with through sexuality and producing these off-branch hybrids. We're going to get into all that as we continue on, right? Check it. This is the biggest remaining challenge to paleontology, okay? It says the gap between ourselves and apes has narrowed in recent years, but it has never been shut. The whole thing is, regardless of the fact, the point is scientists are now slowly, neoscientists today are slowly drifting away from evolving from ape, okay? A lot of neoscientists today actually believe in the creator, okay? Now let's continue on. Watch this. Let's go deeper because I got to give y'all the scientific data. We're dealing with a comparative study. We're not evolutionists. We don't acknowledge evolution. We acknowledge devolution. Remember, when you look at the Genesis account of creation, or better yet, emanation, you talking about us, Elohim, coming from ascent to descent. The descent we manifested in physical form and fullness as the children of Israel. The first shall be last, the last shall be first. Let's continue on. We can go into Neanderthalians, not human ancestors. DNA indicates the Atlanta Journal Constitution, page A3. Let's read. There's no sign of Neanderthalians. See, I'm crushing the so-called white man. Watch. Neanderthalians lurking in our family tree. Why? Because they was a whole nother different species. RH monkey DNA gene. Watch. That's why you only can find that gene in what? Europeans, Asians, and most Native American tribes. Come on, let's get it. Researchers declare, saying that DNA from a Neanderthalian skeleton is helping resolve one of the great debates of human evolution. Genetic differences indicate the Neanderthalians were a different species from the early humans who swept them aside in Europe and Western Asia. Didn't I tell y'all that didn't I tell y'all about the Atlantean root epic and the Lemurian root epic? Original name, the Tamanadu root epic and the Patala root epic. Didn't I say how you got RH monkey DNA and then you got ghost gene DNA? Didn't I break all this down in previous lessons? You hear scientists saying it now. Watch. Their findings. Their finding gives powerful backing to the theory that all humanity descended from an African Eve about 100,000 to 200,000 years ago, and that Neanderthalians were an evolutionary dead end. Let's see what my grandfather say. The international ambassador and prime minister, Prince Yisra'El ben Israel. He said in 1975 in the magazine Black World on page 64 and 65, Prince Yisra'El says, the historians and the anthropologists who control the so-called history of this world will go and dig in the ground and find a bone and tell us the bone is 25,000 years old. Then next, they find a skull and tell us that skull belongs to a Neanderthalian man or a Cro-Magnon man. And then scrape the teeth and tell us that he even had spinach for his last meal. But when our people raise the question of our identity, who are we? They say, I don't know who you are. Clearly, we see this as a conspiracy to keep us ignorant. Because once we realize that we are a people who have a very powerful connection with the true and living sovereign power, they know that we will be about our business. Let's get it. Bereshit chapter 2, verse 10 to 14. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into 4 riverheads. The name of the first is Pison or Pishon. That is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of the land is good. There is diadem and the onyx stone. And the name of the second river is the Gihon. The same is that it compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia, Cush. And the name of the third riverhead is Hadikel. That is it which goeth toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is the Euphrates. Okay. So I'm going to go into the 4 riverhead out in Eden. The map tell the story in the African Heritage Study Bible. So I have a copy right here. See, it's a little dark right now because I have pictures, but I want to show y'all something because it's dark right now and the lights will be back on in a second. But as y'all can see, the African identity, matter of fact, I got a better picture I can use. Let me find a better picture. Oh, this is good enough. So if you look right here, I'm going to show this is the real continent of Africa. That's the real continent. Not when you see this cut, that's the colonized Africa. This is the real Africa. So I just want y'all to see that. So let's get it, y'all. Let's get down to the real nitty gritty. I'm loving this. Shalom, shalom. Who's there? My daughter. So let's get it. It says on page 1895, it says in the African Heritage Study Bible, it says, there has been no small amount of confusion regarding the Garden of Eden. Some maintain that the entire biblical tradition about Eden is myth and legend with no historical or known geographical basis whatsoever. Others attribute historical and geographical significance only to the second pair of rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Yes, I'm live. And the Euphrates, cited in Genesis 2:10-14. Evidently, there is a reluctance to associate the Pison and the Gihon rivers with the Nile rivers, the blue and white Nile rivers. Several factors require associating this first pair of rivers in the Eden tradition. Now, you will have some that teach they really talking about from Mesopotamia to the Indus Valley. You have people that teach that. And then you will have those that teach from, what we talking about in Africa. Me, I teach what from Eastern Africa all the way to the Indus Valley. So let's continue on. Watch this. Several factors require associating the first pair of rivers in the Eden tradition of Genesis with the white and blue Nile. Genesis 2:11 and 11 and 12 refer to the Pison River and describes it in relation to the land of Havilah. In Genesis 10:7, Havilah is said to be a son of Cush, right? Ethiopia, thereby helping to clarify the association, y'all got to hear this, the association between the Pison River and ancient Africa. Furthermore, one should note the minerals, gold, onyx, etc. of Havilah in Genesis 2:12. These were plentiful in biblical Africa, notably ancient Cush and Punt. It is inconceivable that the Yahwist writer who records the Eden tradition does not have the White Nile in mind when referring to the Pison or Pison River. Likewise, the second river in Eden narrative has a relationship with Africa. Genesis 2:13 states that the Gihon River encompasseth the land of Ethiopia. Doubtless, we have here the Blue Nile. Also, if you go into the book From Babylon to Timbuktu, page 14, Professor Rudolph R. Yehuda Windsor says this. Rashi, the 11th century commentator on the Bible, said that the Gihon is the Nile River that blows through Eastern Africa. I'm in Eastern Africa right now. If you go to Genesis chapter 15:18, it says that we'll be able to tell our demarcation stations by what? The great river Egypt to the Euphrates. So if you in Ghana, you're in the land of Israel. If you in Kenya, you're in the land of Israel. If you in Tanzania, you're in the land of Israel. If you in Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Palestine, the fake state of Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, the whole entire from Eastern Africa to Northeastern Africa is in fact the land of Israel. Y'all stand correct. Israel is not this one little piece of real estate. The whole entire Israel is from East Africa to Northeastern Africa. Hallelujah. Let's continue on. So let's deal with the Edenic lands and people and the geographical and historical evidence. Also, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Sar Mariel Ben Yehuda, who is definitely a master teacher of mine, who gave me the tools of understanding this information. I've been, initiated in the kingdom of Yah for many, 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 many years. And if it wasn't for his type of work, I wouldn't be able to, stand where I stand today. That's going to Trouble in Biblical Waters on page 24 by Dr. King Hope Fendi. He says, according to Homer and Herodotus, the inhabitants of the following territories were Ethiopians, Sudan, Egypt, Arabia, Palestine, Western Asia, and India. Come on, man. What you talking about? Remember, you got the Eastern Ethiopians and the Western Ethiopians. What are you talking about, man? Didn't the Most High compare us to the Ethiopians? Meaning he was comparing us to the Ethiopians from the Indus Valley all the way to Mesopotamia. Then you got the Western Ethiopians, which is west of the Nile. Anybody west of the Nile, that's considered Western Ethiopia. What are you talking about? They don't know what they're talking about. Let's go to Esther chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Xerxes, right? Which reigned from India all the way to Ethiopia, over 127 provinces. Let's get it. Let's go into William Leon Hansberry, African History, Notebook, Volume 2, Africa and Africans as Seen by Classical Writers, page 51 and 52. Now, let's talk about classical writers. Hold on for 1 second, y'all. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. Let's get it. I'm back. Hallelujah. You see what I'm doing, y'all? You see how I'm tearing these people out the frame? Okay. All right, T. All right, now I'm back in the flesh. All right. So let's read it. The ancient Greek notion that burnt-faced men or Ethiopians existed in Western and Southern Asia seems, in the light of modern archaeological research, to have much to substantiate it. the early populations of Persia and the southern Mesopotamians are areas seen, okay, also to have belonged to black-skinned people. I'm going to show y'all this. I got this right here. The physical appearance of ancient Israel. We're going to get it in a second. The physical appearance of ancient Israel. So let's look real quick at some of the images of those over there in these locations that we are talking about. Let's look at the Persians real quick, or the Elamites, which would be considered Eastern Ethiopians, correct? Okay, let's get the real close look. See, these guys, they want to play games. But see, this coming off the walls, man, over there in Iran. Don't play no games with us, man. Don't play no games, man. We ain't going to play no games. We going to get into this in a second. Watch this. Watch this. Right? Peep it, y'all. The early populations of Persia and the southern Mesopotamian area seem also to have belonged to a black-skinned, wide-nosed, and woolly-haired race. The same seemed to have been the case in the Palestinian area from very ancient times until well in the second millennium BC. So I'm going to read something. Let's back that stands up. Let's back that stands up. Then we're not going to sit up here and play no games. Watch this. Okay. Now, let's deal with a little biology. Let's deal with a little biology. Because we know even Godfrey Higgins says, who is also a reliable English historian, he clearly said in the book Anti-Calypsis that the Chaldeans were Negroes. There's a difference from contemporary scholars versus classical scholars. Classical scholars were the historians of ancient times. The people, they were eyewitnesses. They were right there. What are you talking about? I'm using eyewitnesses. Let's get it. Watch this. Let's deal with the scientist, the black scientist, Dr. Charles S. Finch, the third MD. He says in his book, Echoes of the Old Dark Land, on pages 5 and 32, he says this: we know for a fact that albinos all over Africa, that unprotected skin is subject to grotesque, disfiguring cancers that are soon fatal. Melanin, the substance that gives the skin a dark brown or black pigment, by absorbing ultraviolet radiation and scattering the ions protects the skin from cancer. So, for Abraham to have come from Ur Kasdim, he would have been dark or black skin. Come on, man. Let's stop playing these games. We're about to get in order. Also, remember, Xerxes, right? Remember, they were the Medo-Persian Empire. The Persians were the Elamites. They were Shemitic. The Medes were Japhetic. The true Japhites were black. The Japhetic tribes are not the Europeans, man. The so-called Europeans or the Euro-Gentiles are a hybrid. They come by the way of RH monkey DNA gene. They have no ties to the sons of Noah. The so-called white race are not descendants of Noah, period. But watch this. Let me show y'all something. I got this book here, Niggas, the True Children of Israel, right? Written by the late Zaquin H. ben Ephraim, right? Let me show y'all images real quick. Let me show y'all something. Here it is right here. Now tell me if I'm lying, I'm flying. Look at these captive Israelites. Are you saying these is... Look, y'all. Come on, man. These guys, let me move this away. These guys are playing games, man. They're playing games with y'all, man. Let's get closer. Look, they playing games with y'all. They got y'all thinking this is stone. This is in Iraq, man. This is in stone, man, how we look, man, with braids and beards. Now, if you like me with alopecia, that's a different story. But we rock braids and beards, man. Come on, man. Look at the cornrows to the back. Who you think you playing with, man? This ain't no goddamn Native Americans. Stop playing these fucking games, man. Huh? Lying to our people, talking about the so-called natives of Israel. No, they not, man. They hybrid, man. Now you got Israelites amongst the natives. We know that they're Q haplogroup Mongolians from the Gobi Desert. We know they old haplogroups going back to the Australoids. Come on, man. Stop playing these games, man, like you think we don't know, right? Let's go to H.G. Wells and William Dwight's book, Beyond Roots in Search of Blacks in the Bible, page 31. Possibly. Listen to this. The more ancient races of men were all dusty or ruddy or black. The fairness is new. Stop. So classical writers, when they talked about ruddy, they was talking about black people. Stop playing games, vocab Malone. Stop trying to use the Strong's Concordance to justify ruddy as being rosy from the blood coming from whites up the white skin. That's what he's trying to do, man. Because they try to say that the word Adam means like rosy and red and all. No, man. They playing games. Adam don't even mean man. It don't mean none of that. It means what? The firstborn rising or the first blood rising with outstretched arms. Remember, Moshe wrote the Torah in Sinaitic, Picturetic, archaic hieroglyph. So what is the Aleph? Huh? Isn't the Aleph first in rank an image of an ox head? Right? Am I lying, y'all? It's not the Daleth, the image of a doorway, a path? Huh? And isn't the mean waters? When you put the Daleth in the mean, you got as in the blood of grapes. And if the Dam is first in rank, and it don't say Adam in the Ivrit, it says Ha-Adam. The Ha or the He is a symbol of a man with outstretched arms. Right or wrong? So it means, so Ha-Adam means what? The firstborn or the first blood rising with outstretched arms, which is inclusive of woman too. So Adam is not even defining a man, but it's talking about an ecological condition and a function taking place within the garden. These guys is nuts, man. They don't know what they talking about. If Psalms chapter 147, verse 19 to 20 say he gave this laws and precepts to Israel and he haven't dealt with any other nation, how's Vocab Malone going to tell you about the scripture? You talking about they of another nation. But y'all sitting up here letting this monkey come on our platforms, man, and disrespect elders. This ain't no shout out to F.O.P.E. or nobody. I'm coming at you, vocab. We not friends. I'm not Divine Prospect. Don't get me fucked up. That's my brother Divine. He playing chess with you. But I'm not playing chess. I'll cut your goddamn head off. Figuratively. Debate? Why would I debate you? You're an animal, man. You are the beast of the field. Why would I even debate a fool that is below us? Come on, and I'm Torah only. So you can't come at me with that. You can try to play with our Messianic brothers with that, but you can't come to me with that because I'm going to sever your head straight off your shoulder. We're not friends. I'm not trying to have fud sickles with you. You are the enemy. You are the enemy. You and your white higher echelon, naturally y'all going to be able to have certain scholastical information because what does the book of Daniel say? That y'all have a time and a half a time to rule. So y'all using the power to define through scholarship and academia to oppress our people, man. Get the fuck out of here. I don't like you, period. That's why I bodied you 4 years ago on DCB. Y'all it's on my Facebook. I destroyed even James White. I destroyed him so bad and no Israelite left behind on BTV. They did a whole presentation on me. He said, look, that guy, the mighty Hebrew, this is what James White said out of his own mouth. He said that dude, the mighty Hebrew, we'll have problems with him. But the reason why I won't debate him because he cursed too much. Well, guess what, James White? Fuck you. How about that? You know what I mean? We're not on the same backgrounds. We not. They oppressed and suppressed our people for thousands of years. And now you want to sit back and talk about we brothers through Christ? You're a damn liar. Because even if you study on Yeshua, there was no New Testament at the time. So in essence, Yeshua was Torah only. He may have had certain differences, but he would have been considered Torah only. Wouldn't JC or Jesus be named Saccharich? Ain't that like Kunta being called Toby? But you want us to believe that this man would accept that name, Jesus Christ. Get the hell out of here. You a damn liar. He would have been Torah only because there was no New Testament at the time. Right? Let's get it. We're about to get in it heavy. Let's get in it heavy. Let's go to Daoud Malik Watt's book, The Black Presence in the Lands of the Bible, page 2. See how I'm building up a case? All right? You see what I'm doing to them? Most records from the past, including the Bible, paint a picture of the presence of millions of black people. The tremendous black population stretched from the coast of the Atlantic Ocean to the Nile Valley, across Arabia, Persia, and all the way to India. Come on, man. Come on, man. No more whitewash. Let's go back into the African History Notebook, Volume 2, Africa and Africans as seen by classical writers. Pages 13 and 24, man. I'm giving y'all primary sources. I'm giving y'all primary out. I study day and night. I'm doing footwork. If y'all love this, come on, man. Ain't nothing wrong with hitting up that Cash App. $ Princess, capital P, Etana, capital E-I-T-A-N-A. Let's get it. In the authorized version of the Old Testament, the term Cush, when referring to a land or country, has been translated, except in Genesis, as Ethiopia or Ophiopia or Ethiops, was for the early Greeks roughly equivalent to the land of sunburnt or black-faced men. That's what they saying out their mouth, man. Let's stay in that same book on page 74, 75. Recent archaeological, anthropological, and historical inquiry have brought and is bringing to light evidence which supports the conclusion that Palestine, Arabia, Persia, and India was once the seats of important groups of blacks or Africans, and that the traces of this racial type, which are still to be detected in most of these areas at the present time, are but the surviving remnants, members of the once more firmly established ethnic group. Let's go to H.G. Wells, outlining history. Let's go to your white Klansmen. H.G. Wells, the one that wrote the book War of the Worlds, that scientific book. Let's see what he said. Let's see. Let's see what he say on page 166. There is a strong Negro strain in the modern people of Elam. Come on, man. Let's go into my book, Our True History, the Diaspora and Our Freedom. Let's go on my book, okay? Let's go on my book. Let's go into the records of what I say in my book that I wrote from the information that I discovered. Okay, because y'all playing all these games. Okay, I see in my book on page 216, I say also Dr. George G. Cameroon of the Department of Oriental Studies at the University of Chicago. Yeah, that's get it, right? Informs us in his book, History of Early Iran, right? that the original population of this area was in fact Proto-Negroid, meaning original black people first that was there. The word proto means early, right? So Proto-Negro would mean early or ancient bronze black people. These first Shemitic and Hamitic people once extended westward from Elam or India along the shores of the Persian Gulf. These people were the first to inhabit the Tigris and Euphrates Valley. This is a fact. Come on, man. That's in my book, Our True History, The Diaspora and Our Freedom. Let's continue on. Let's go to, man, I got so much, man. I can keep going. Let's go to Sir Henry Johnston in the book, The Negro in the New World. Page 27. This how you destroy cats like Vocab Malone. This how you destroy ancient watchmen. Use the classical historians, the classical records. That's how you can destroy cats like Garfield that try to say Moses didn't exist, Solomon, David, none of these guys exist. Well, if that's the case, why in classical records when they talk about the Israelites, they talk about them as a historical group of people? Where is there any classical historian? I challenge any of y'all. Show me any classical records right now of any classical historian saying that the Israelites didn't exist. Show me in any classical records that they describe the Israelites as so-called white people. We got Tacitus saying that the Israelites were Ethiopian people, man. Get the fuck out of here, man. Y'all playing a lot of games and sitting back got people thinking that the Israelites were some pale-faced European dogs, man. Let's get it. I'm ripping y'all out the frame for the simple fact y'all been coming at our people left side of the, I'm not friends with, you got this punk ass coward, Ayash, whatever his name is from Ancient Watchmen. You's a freaking coward, man. If I was in your face, I'll fucking stomp your teeth down your goddamn throat, man. Talking all this trash. Oh, let's debate. You a coward, man. I would never debate. I'm like Dr. John Henrik Clark. I only debate my equals, man. You ain't on equal ground with me, man. Or I debate those that's superior to me, man. You trash, man. You ain't nothing but a cave-dwelling RH monkey DNA R haplotype Spaniard, conquistador. You a conqueror. You conquered the original Caribs, the original Taino Arawaks, stole their history, and now you talking about you Taino or you Azteca, Mixteca, Piablo, Huanca. Y'all not them people, man. Them tribes don't even exist no more, man. Stop lying. Stop playing games, man. Y'all think we don't know the truth. Let's get it. Watch this. The Elamites appear to have been a Negroid people with kinky hair and to have transmitted this racial type to the Israelites and Syrians. Come on, man. This is good. Now remember, Elam is the uncle of Eber. Come on, man. Let's get it, man. You don't want no smoke. Y'all want smoke? Y'all want smoke? It ain't even no smoke. It's fire now. I'm burning your whole house down. You dealing with all these pseudo, man, fuck that pseudo shit. Let's deal with the facts, man. Let's deal with the facts. All classical writers of ancient times is verifying what we saying. All the contemporary archaeological, paleontological, anthropological data with the Tanakh / biblical record is showing that the original inhabitants of the Garden of Eden was black. Or ruddy, as you would like to say, Vocab Malone. Let's get it. You's a chump. I'll debate you. No, I'll smack you in your head if I had a chance to. We ain't friends. Let's make that clear. We not friends. You are enemy. Didn't the Most High say when we would go into captivity, we would be in the land of our enemies? So if that be the case, how is Vocab your friend? He got the so-called white establishment backing him up. Oh, he's not white, he's Mexican. What you think the Mexicans are? I ain't talking about your Afro-Mexicans. I ain't talking about your indigenous Mexicans that still live in that land. I'm talking about your Spaniard conquistadors. I tell Vocab Malone to do his DNA. I already did mine. I know who I am. I went to African ancestry. I know I'm Israel through the Igbo. The Bantu-speaking Igbo tribe. Then he going to try to say, well, we did a DNA study on the Igbo. That's why I love F.O.P.E so much. But listen, man, y'all gotta really get into these books for real, hard body. I'm talking about where so you can body these cats. He going to try to say that the evidence pointing out the Igbo prove that they're not Israel because they did a DNA test on them. What he don't want to tell you is that they went to this local DNA testing out in Arizona and Dallas, which is not even an official DNA site. It's a private joint. And naturally, they're not going to align themselves with the J1 haplogroup. What are you talking about? And then the only reason why the Lamba had certain J1 markings because of their communication and mixing with certain actors. Remember, the Lambas, they in like East and Southern Africa. And remember, before the West African slave trade, you had the East African slave trade. The true Israelite DNA is E1B1A, M2. What are you talking about? That's the real Israelite presence, not the J1. The J1 and J2, oh, that shit is Arabs and all them. They invaded and they started, you had the East African slave trade through the Arabs, and then you had the West African slave trade. So what, y'all Arabs, y'all raped some Lambas, and that's what y'all determining them being Jewish? Who you think you playing with? Because they mixed with some Arab Jews? Got me fucked up. I'm going by their cultural anthropogenesis, their Hebrew anthropogenesis, their oral traditions that prove that they Israel. Not some goddamn so-called white man that did some so-called DNA. They did that to authenticate. See, they used the Lambas as porch monkey poster child boys to authenticate their Jewishness. That's what they did, man. They used the Lambas, who are in fact Israelites, to prove them being Israelites because of them Arab Jews that were involved. Yeah, because you had Arabs that were Jews too. Yeah, I mean, remember, Jewish ain't no people, man. It's a religion, man. You're running around here talking about the Jewish people. Okay. Let's continue on. Watch this, y'all. This is getting deeper. Right. There is a curliness of hair together with a Negro eye and full lips in Assyria, which conveys the idea of an evident Negro element in Babylonia. Quite probably the very ancient Negro invasion of Mediterranean Europe, of which the skeleton of the apse maritime are present, came from Syria and Asia Minor on its way to Central and Western Europe. Wow, they said they came from Syria. So these original black people was already in Syria. That's what I'm trying to say, man. What you talking about, vocabulary? Why couldn't you just have said that the Israelites was black, man? Why you had to, come on, man. Let's just say hypothetically they were white. Let's just say it. Let's just play this game with them. Well, I'm not saying that they weren't white, but I'm not saying they weren't black. They weren't y'all, though. Y'all West Africans, there's no such thing. He making it seem like everybody in West Africa are indigenous to West Africa. You didn't study the Yoruba and their oral traditions and how they talk about how they go back to Nimrod, the area of Nimrod, and that they from the East. You didn't study the Igbo tradition, the Akan, the Dahomian. You didn't study their traditions, how they say they come from the East. Oh, you thought they was just always there in West Africa. Yeah, okay. Yeah. This is why I'm saying you talking to, he know who to talk to and who not to talk to. I don't respect vocabulary at all. I don't respect how he came on my brothers and sisters show, F.O.P.E, and disrespected our elder, Professor Lee Cummins. Okay? They ran around saying Jewish people. No, it was no such thing as Jewish people. And let's break this down. You got Hebrew Israelites, Abar or Ibri Israeli. Hebrew Israelites. You got 12 tribes from the 12 sons. The fourth son was Yehuda, Yehowadah, which you get the word Judah. We know there wasn't no J. So in the so-called Jewish man mind, he's calling all the 12 tribes of Israel Jews. How is that when the only true Jews, even though there's no such thing, will come from the tribe of Judah? These guys need to be still correct. If I'm a Hebrew Israelite from the tribe of Gad, hypothetic, and you call me a Jew, wouldn't you be cutting me off from my tribal heritage? That's what I'm saying. These guys don't make no sense. And then to be Jewish is through your mother. But we know to be an Israelite is determined through the seed of your father, not your mother. Watch this, y'all. Y'all want to go deep? Watch this. Let's deal with chromosomes. You got a man is what? An X and a Y, right? And a woman is two X's, right? So the Y is what determines the male, right? Now watch this. When a male child is born, he gets his Y from his father. Where do he get his X from? He gets it from his mother. Wrong. He gets it from his mother's father. Watch this. If a woman, there's a child that's a woman, it's two X's. Naturally, an X from the father, because remember the father is an XY, right? And where does that other X come from? The mother. Oh, no, the mother's father. Come on, man. Who you think you playing with? Who you think you playing with? So it don't matter if you're trying that matrilineal or patrilineal, it's all going back to the seed of the father. Who you trying to play? You can't play with us, man. You playing these games, man. You playing these games and thinking we don't know science, history. Oh, let's go to Dr. Charles Finch once again. It echoes of the old dark land themes from the African Eden on page 131. This doctor, this scientist says in Sumer, which in Genesis or Bereshit chapter 11 is known as Shinar, right? So often touted as the world's first civilization, the African of the original inhabitants is betrayed by their name for themselves, the Black Heads. Furthermore, Sumer's first capital was Kis, the same as the Egyptian word Kush or Kawash, a name for Kush of Ethiopia. This is getting too easy, man. This is getting too easy. Let's go to J.A. Rogers' Sex and Race, Volume 1, page 60, to get an idea of the mixed nature of all that ancient Eastern population. We must devise ourselves entirely of the current notions of race. The Chaldeans, for instance, the land from which Abraham, ancestor of the Israelites, came, were Negroes, according to Professor Sir Godfrey Higgins and others. Come on, man. I'm buying these dudes, man. I'm buying these cats, man. Let's go to the book Beyond Roots in Search of Blacks in the Bible, page 31 by William Dwight McKenzie. Let's go there. It says the darker races of India preceded the lighter so-called Aryan races. The Eucrasians, who originated in Africa, occupied Italy before the Romans. They were descendants of Japheth. You know what I'm saying? And when them Japhites were up there, then other Gentiles from other parts of Europe came and invaded. What are you talking about? Your Japhites were a black race of people. They're not the father of the Europeans, man. We got to stop that. I'm saying that the Euro-Gentiles are not even descendants of Noah. That's what I'm saying. Oh, wasn't the whole earth flooded? Well, it says the word Aratza or Eretz in Ivrit, in Hebrew, which means land, region. So there were other occupants in other parts of the world. The Euro-Gentiles are from a whole nother different species, man. Come on, man. They're not descendants of Noah. Let's continue on. Watch this. Is about to get even deeper. A short, swirly, or ruddy Ain't that the word that Vocab Malone likes to use? Black race initially populated France and Germany. The Aborigines of Australia. The Manoas of New Zealand. The Inuits of Japan. The Black Caribs of St. Vincent. The Olmecs of Mexico. The Jamanis of Florida. And the Garfana of South America. The list goes on and on. All represent dark, ruddy, or dusty complected people who spawned the globe, who spanned the globe prior to recorded history. Come on, man. What are you talking about? Let's go to the Valley of the Dry Bones, page 53 by Rudolph Yehuda Windsor. He says, if you add up the number, now this is very important, Israel. This for you, vocab. If you add up the number of times that African people and places are mentioned in the Bible, you will find that the references about African people exceeded more than 1,000 times. Show me how many times they talk about Rome. Show me in the Old Testament. Come on, man. Stop playing these games, man. In the Bible, there is not one single mentioning of either England or Germany. By contrast, however, the countries in Africa are mentioned again and again. The Old Testament alone cites Ethiopia over 40 times and Egypt over 100 times. King Hope Finland, the Biblical Institute for Social Change, Volume 3, Number 1, page 2. Hosea, chapter 11, verse 1. When Yisra'El was a child, then I loved him and called my son out of Mitzrayim, Egypt. Come on, man. That correlates with Genesis, but Exodus chapter 4, verse 22 and 23. That's what it was referring to. Who is the son of the Most High? Israel as a nation. Let's continue on. Let's go to Charles B. Cooper's book, The Black Presence in the Old Testament. In Stony, The Road We Tread, Dr. King Hope Fender, page 163. In the veins of Hebrew Israelite peoples flow black blood. Come on. And like I said, that's a hypothetical. These Israelites were black. These mean white. These 70 souls. You mean to tell me that these 70 souls were white that came into Egypt, right? And after mixing all them years with Kemetic women, they remain white? And not to mention, even when you go to the burial of Jacob in the book of Genesis, what's that, the 50th chapter? Huh? When you go there and they talk about the burial of Jacob, why did the Canaanites confuse the Israelites and call them Egyptians and said this is the mourning of the Egyptians? Come on, man. Who you think you playing with, man? I'm playing all these games. Let's go into the book and Sheikh Anti Diaz's book, The Cultural Unity of Black Africa, page 8. Many scholars of history today believe that the ancient Hebrew people, like the ancient Egyptians, were dark-skinned. Come on, man, you playing games. Watch this. Let's go into the Black Presence in the Lands of the Bible, page 14, by Daoud Malik Watts. If we follow the story of the children of Israel, Jacob, we see them as a mere 70 people entering Kemet or Egypt, a clearly black African nation at the time of Joseph. Stop playing games. Let's go back into black biblical studies and analogy of Charles B. Cooper, page 13 and 14. The truth of the matter is that, depending on one's definition of black, some of these people were either black outright or had a large element of black people within the overall population. It holds true also for some so-called Shemites, really Shemites, particularly the early Shemitic Hebrews, and possibly for still others as well. One need not wonder at the fact that the present population of Israel is as mixed in color as are the black people in the United States of America. Come on, man. Who the hell are they talking to, man? They playing all these games thinking that we wasn't going to dissect their stuff. Let's go to the Smith's Bible Dictionary. Let's go to vocab alone, you like to use the Smith Bible Dictionary. It's so funny because I have you in presentations talking about this book. So I say, shit, let me go to the Smith's Bible Dictionary, the Revised Edition, page 281. Let's see what the Smith's Bible Dictionary says. It appears to be beyond dispute that can be proved from the ancient monuments, from tradition, and from dialects now spoken by their descendants, that a great Hamitic population must have overspread Europe, Asia, and Africa, speaking languages more or less dissimilar in their vocabulary, but having almost a common grammar and construction. These people civilized Phoenicia, Babylonia, South Arabia, and Egypt, and prepared the way for the Hebrew race, or the Shemitic races who came after and benefited from their works. And we know that Ham and Shem, man, they was brothers, man. Come on with these games, man. Let's go to Ali R. Marjorie in the World Culture in the Black Experience, page 14. He says, the racial identity of the Israelites and the Ishmaelites has led to a number of theories that form an important part of that side of intellectual history, which has been concerned with speculations about the races of man. There is certainly a school of thought among black people that regard all Shemitic people as having been originally part of the colored world. Dr. Kane Hope Fender says in Trouble in Biblical Waters, Race, Class, and Family on page 28, he says it can no longer be taken for granted that Shemitic languages necessarily originated in the Near East. Various attempts at placing the ultimate origin of the Shemitic languages in the Fertile Crescent or in Arabia have not proven successful. Meanwhile, many serious scholars accept the view that the Shemitic language group is a branch of the major family called Hamitic Shemitic or Afro-Asiatic. Come on, man. These guys are standing. Man, we dealing with linguistics. We dealing with geography. We dealing in genealogy. We dealing in the biblical text. We dealing in scientific data. We doing all this, and all this stuff is proven without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt, family, that the Hebrews were African Edenic people. Let's continue on. The Middle East or Northeastern Africa. Now, by that same author, Ali A. Missouri, he wrote a book called The Africans of Triple Heritage. I got here on page 102. He says, what is Africa? Answer, it is what Europeans finally decided it to be. Come on, man. Garfield, all y'all talking about a colonizing continent now called Africa. All the demarcation stations is off course. They off balance. Y'all don't believe, y'all got people arguing, oh, Israel isn't a part of, like, you got the dude, Dr. Reggie. Give a shout out to Dr. Reggie. I like Dr. Reggie. Dr. Reggie is truly a scholar. I respect his academia scholarship. But what I don't respect is him saying that basically Israel isn't a part of Africa. So remember, y'all see what I'm doing? See, vocab alone, you didn't want to answer the question. So now we're going to find out where Israel is at. Let's get it. Let's go into Ezekiel chapter 5, verse 5. Thus say Yahweh Elohim, this is Jerusalem. I've set it in the midst of the nations and countries that are round about her. So Israel is in the center of the earth. Let's go there. Mount Moriah is in the center of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is in the center of Israel. Israel is in the center of the earth. Again, Mount Moriah is in the center of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is in the center of Israel. And Israel is in the center of the earth. And the earth, not the sun, is the center of the universe. There's many suns. Let's get it. Let's go. I'm going to chop your goddamn skull off. You're a Gentile. Let's go into, I got so many notes here. Let's go to Biblical Institute of Social Change, Volume 3, Number 1, Page 2. Let's read that. The ancient land of Canaan was but an extension of the African landmass. And in biblical times, African people frequently migrated from the continent proper through Canaan, Palestine, to the east toward what was then included as Asia, namely the Fertile Crescent or the Tigris and Euphrates River of ancient Mesopotamia. Very interesting. Because you know the Negev Desert is nothing but the Sahara. It's just the Sahara Desert. It's an extension of the Sahara Desert. Just the locals in southern Israel, they call it the Negev, but it's a part of the Sahara Desert. Professor Qanath proved that to Dr. Reggie on the couch at Sinai John. Let's go to the African Heritage Study Bible, page 4 and 5. Let's check them notes out. Most contemporary maps of Africa show only the main body of Africa. Again, most contemporary maps of Africa show only the main body, meaning that remember that map I showed y'all? Y'all remember? Let me show y'all again. Remember? Can y'all see it right there? This won't be there, so this will be out. So they will only show you that, but they won't have that on there. Now look at Madagascar right there. They'll say, oh, that's a part of Africa. But Israel not a part. And Israel is right there connected. You can ride from the Negev to Egypt, but that's not a part of Africa. You see how dumb these guys is, man. But they say, oh, Madagascar is a part of Africa because the fauna, the animal and plant life is similar and they have the same thing. Well, that's the same in the land of Israel. These guys is foolish, man. Who they think they talking to, man? Let's get it. Let's get it. Watch this. Watch this. Let's get it. Most contemporary maps of Africa show only the main body of the continent, with the Suez Canal being its northeastern border. Prior to the building of the Suez Canal, 1859 to 1869, Africa perhaps extended to the Tigris and Euphrates River. All of this region was landlocked with the main continent. Ancient caravans once journeyed to these regions by foot. And you see that in the 46th chapter, Bit of Sheep, falsely called Genesis. You see it. People was walking through foot to Mesopotamia all throughout Africa. They was walking there. What are you talking about, man? Let's go into Yisra'El Khazar in A New View of the World, a handbook to the world map, Peter's Projection, page 10, 12, and 13, which reads, maps send powerful messages. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, a map of the world is worth 1,000 pictures as we try to understand our place in the world. The Mercator map enlarges those areas of the world historically inhabited by whites, shift those same areas to the heart and centers the world stage where they do not belong, and minimizes the importance of what we designate the third world. So they minimize Africa. I thought y'all was scholars, you Afrocentric scholars that believe in the colonial Africa. I thought y'all was scholars. Why would y'all let Europeans dominate y'all understanding of how Africa is? Come on, I live in Africa, so you can't tell me. And I'm telling you, the locals understand Israel as being a part of Africa. They don't look at that as a different area. Let's get it. Let's go into the book, African Heritage Study Bible, in the introductory, Africa, the beginning. This is a very interesting quotation. It talks about how The map that's in that Bible, it gives ancient connections to continental Africa, to the neighboring northeastern landmasses, due to the manner in which Western historians have taught about this geographical part of the world. Students have been led to believe that Arabia, Ethiopia, Israel, and Assyria, Persia, and Syria were separate and disconnected in their historical and geographical context. However, during biblical times, they were very much connected. People migrated from lower, you got to hear this, from lower Africa and journeyed to northeastern Africa, Canaan, Palestine, and Israel today. There was no body of water to separate these two areas. The Suez Canal was not dug into the 19th century, and it was only during World War II when World War correspondents began to refer to North Africa and northeastern Africa as the Middle East. The term Middle East required no mention of Africa. And I asked the question, if there's a Middle East, where's the Middle North, the Middle West, and the Middle South? Them guys stand correct, man. Let's go into Rudolph R. Windsor's book, Valley of Dry Bones, page 52, which reads, ancient historians did not use names of continents such as Asia or Africa. They used national or tribal names. Nevertheless, the African in the Middle East, the African in the Middle East and the ones in Egypt, Ethiopia, and Kenya were descendants from the same family. In light of this old information, Palestine and much of the Middle East would seem to be an extension of the African continent, just as Madagascar is a part of Africa. Come on, man. These guys stand correct. Let's go real fast. Hold on. Let me get it. Okay, let me get Genesis chapter 15, 18. Let me tell you why I'm in Tanzania. Let's check it out. In that same day, or in the same day, Yahweh made a covenant with Avram, saying, unto thy seed I have given this land from the great river Egypt unto the great river, the Euphrates. Let's go to Prince Dr. Shaliah bin Yahuda lecturing during a September 1993 pilgrimage tour of northeastern African region, Israel and Egypt, which he says, the world must now realize that northeastern Africa extends all the way from the Nile River of Egypt to the banks of the Euphrates River. These constitute the biblical boundaries of the promised land. Boom, I'm in Israel right now. What you talking about? Oh, y'all thought I had to go to the fake Jewish state of Israel to be in Israel? I'm saying by the borders that are outlined in Genesis chapter 15, verse 18, I would be in Israel right now. In Tanzania, I'm in Israel. See, we've been fooled by the year. That's what happened. That's just a part of the greater body of Israel. Let's get it. Let's go and get even deeper. The whole ridiculous point of creating a so-called Middle East was an effort to avoid talking about Africa. It was a sign of academic racism, which thoroughly sought to de-Africanize the sacred story of the Bible, along with the whole sweep of Western civilization. Palestine, also known as Israel, has always been exactly where it is today, in Northeast Africa. You can find that in Afrocentric Biblical Interpretation, Volume 2, Number 1, page 13. See what I'm doing to you, Vocab Malone? See how I'm proving that Israel is Northeastern Africa? See how I'm showing that when you talk about the Garden of Eden where man was at, that was in Africa? See how I'm showing, let's look at it, let's take a new look at the ancient land. Let's take a new look. You think I'm lying, I'm flying. Let's go into the book, The Africans of Triple Heritage again. And this was a 9-part PBS documentary series. I'm fucking these guys up, man. I'm using primary sources on you. I'm not dealing with no religious bullcrap. The so-called Bible, mainly the Old Testament, is a book of history about the ancient Israelites and how they seen their source and substance, Yahweh himself, how they seen the people around them in Africa. What you thought? Let's read this. Who determined that the Arabian Peninsula was not a part of our continent? This is what he's saying. This African Genius, the same. Well, two vastly different forces played a major part in the decision. One was a natural cataclysm which occurred 5 million or more years ago, created the Rift Valley and tore off the Arabian Peninsula from its mother continent, except from the Isthmus of Suez. The second, European power and European influence and map making decided that Africa ended at the Red Sea and not at the Gulf, which separated Arabia from Iran. So Israel is in Africa. Israel sits right on the African tectonic plate. What are you talking about? Vocab? I would destroy, man, y'all would. Oh my gosh. Y'all talking to these guys, man. These guys, man, you know where I'm going to go? I want to go to National Geographic. How about that? Let's go to National Geographic, volume 177, number 5, May 1990, page 10. Hey, what's going on, cuz? What's up, Emmanuel, Elder Emmanuel, my cousin on. I'm live and direct, Tanzania, chilling, exposing vocab Malone, why he didn't want to say that the Israelites were African Edenic people, why he just didn't want to say the so-called Negroes in the Americas are in fact the Israelites, and the Bantu-speaking tribes are in fact Israelites. He wanted to go and circumnavigate and all this crap. Now I'm giving you primary information and facts. This coming directly from the mighty Hebrew. Let's get it. I'm in National Geographic. The Great Rift is actually an immense series of cracks in the face of the continent that runs 5,600 kilometers from the Red Sea south to Mozambique. Scientists trace the system much further north. A related Fusus runs up through the Red Sea to connect with the major fault running through the Dead Sea all the way to Turkey. Let's go to Michael Bradley, Chosen People from the Caucasus. Now, I tell all y'all need to read that. Go get Chosen People from the Caucasus. And in that book, Chosen People from the Caucasus, Michael Bradley proved that these so-called Jews are Khazars, which were Mongol people whose origins go back to Neanderthal, which is RH monkey DNA. They're not even Israelites, man. Let's go on page 95. Let's read what he says. He says, Africa's famous Rift Valley may be evidence of the same crustal wrenching that took place along the weak stream between the African tectonic plate and the Indian Ocean plate. If we look at the Middle East in Smith, the Great Rift. Listen, y'all. Listen, y'all know I'm on a blackout. I'm going to come back. We're going to have to do the rest of this later. I don't have no more internet. I was about to sign out. I'll get back with you with part 2 in a second once the lights come on. Hallelujah. Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism rising worldwide.